Okay, awesome. So what I want you to do, if you have not watched the videos, I'm only going to give you, they're only about 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. So if you have not watched these, I think most people have, just from the text boxes that I can see lit up. If you have not had a chance to watch it, if you already saw this first one, that's the one that I sent. So that's the one about how do I do this on my iPhone. And it's very, very specific. And it's important that you do it the correct way or you will not get credit. So it walks you through, and I believe it walks you through an Android also, if that's how you're doing this. But look at that video. It's made by a teacher, somebody who has the inside scoop on how the APBC exam is going to be this year. So if you haven't watched this one, that would probably be a good one to start with. This one, way, way, way important. This one's from the College Board. And it's actually a video. It's about 4.5 minutes long, after which you can try a demo, which I don't suggest you do right now. But what I want you to do is watch one of these and then type in the most important tip you learned. Just one, but I will give you about 5 minutes to do that. Excellent. So I can tell from what you're talking about that you've looked at one of the 2 videos, which is excellent. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on differential equations, logistic equations. We haven't talked about that. We talked about a lot of stuff, but I think that is one of those things that's easy to skip over, and it could easily be woven into a question which has to do with arc length, or, they could just throw anything in there. A couple of tips. I posted on Blackboard some of these documents, but my suggestion, one big thing, have at least 10 blank sheets of paper with your name and APID number at the top. I believe you can write initials also, but I would just include your full name, because if they don't have that, they don't know what to score. So I would have that ready to go. So you're not sitting there going, oh, wait, I forgot to do that as you're taking pictures. Not that you're going to need 10, but you might. If you write really big, I'd need 10. Make sure your phone is fully charged. These are sort of like no-brainer things. Or, have your charger, obviously. Notes and study guide. This is open notes, guys. You could use your notes. I'll show you an example of somebody who did this like the first day. Actually, we hadn't even started. It was like March 14th. This person sent me a study guide just for me to look over, and I made corrections. So I didn't give you the correction one, but have your own notes. Don't just, or at least if you've got a study guide, make sure you know what's in there. Don't go hunting around for stuff. You only got 25 minutes for the first question. In addition to that, I would say put tabs in your sections, right? So you don't want to be hunting through and going, oh my gosh, what is this? Ideally, you won't have to hunt for anything. But if you are looking for something, you want to know exactly what it is. You don't want to be wasting time going, wait, what did I do? I don't remember what I did with this. Or I haven't looked at the study guide. Big time deal. This one, make sure in your study guides that you put reminders for how to correctly justify. So if you're saying f prime is increasing, that means f is concave up. F prime, right? So the derivative increasing. That correlates with the second derivative being positive. But you have to talk about this and name. I didn't even write this, but go through the things that we've talked about. Always, always, always name your, even if you're tired of writing f prime, write it over and over and over again. You've got the ability, it's pretty quick to do. Even though your calculator won't help you necessarily, most of these are going to have, alphabet soup in them. So you have to know the concept. But you can always use your calculator to check. So let's say you decide that some equation has the fastest growth rate at blah, blah. Well, graph that. You could even just give yourself an example of, hey, is that really true? And just graph it. Make sure that your answers correlate with that. You can't use it as a justification, but hey, what the heck? And definitely don't say my calculator told me. Things to know cold. These are on, I was going to send them maybe I did send them this morning. I think I might have. I don't remember if I sent them or not. I probably did, just because I'm a little neurotic that way. Things to know cold. This is something AB people got last year. It's been updated for B2. also, it's been out, but things to remember, not to forget. It's a guy named Corky, so it'll say Corky in front of it, but there is one that's blank, and then one that is the key. And all of this stuff is on Blackboard, but this would be a really nice thing to just try. Like, he's got mistakes in things. He says, don't write it this way, and leaves a blank. And so you're filling out, what way do I really write it? And then you can check the key. So if you don't know what the heck he's talking about, you can look at what he suggested. Okay. All right. This is what I was talking about. So somebody in my 7th period who shall remain nameless unless she would like to be named. I already asked her for permission. But this was, seriously, we got out the 13th and the 14th, she sent me this. Because she was already working on her study guide. So this is the really basic stuff because it was so early that she sent me that. She had, what the unit was, what the breakdown was. Likely she already has tabs in there. And then this is what I was talking about. Some of you asked me about, well, what can I do with this? And I said, don't forget the squeeze theorem. I don't know if it's going to be on there. It was on there last year, and that's a big deal. So you want to be able to justify it. And you can see, and like I said, there's some mistakes on here. So don't look at this at the, like if you go back and review this and say, oh, all of this is right. I can't find I wrote a whole addendum to it and sent it back. But most of it is absolutely beautifully correct. So that's just my suggestion. All right, so we're going to do a free response question as though it was number 1. So this is a 25-minute deal, and let me think. But before I go on, Sammy, no, never write calculator, ever. Please don't write. You're not going to be using a calculator to justify anything. And even if you did, don't ever write calc. I am so happy you said that. Does everybody see that? She was saying, if you use a calculator on the free response, you just write calc. Never. They won't accept that at all. So, also don't ever, if you're just, trying something out, don't ever say math 9 or math 8. Nobody knows what that is. And there are lots of different things. But you're never, ever going to reference your calculator. Everything is without a calculator. Your calculator is just there to hold your hand and makes you feel good. And maybe it's going to help you with conceptual things, but not likely. So I'm delighted that you asked that. Okay, anything else? When solving a definite integral, can you use a calculator or do you still have to show work? It depends. It depends on the question. If they say give the exact answer, do that. A lot of times it'll just be the setup. But, what's I going to say? But if you use a calculator, just make sure that if you're working through a problem and it's several steps, that you're storing that value because the final answer within 3 decimal places, at 3 places after the decimal is what they're going to look at. So let me find out. Yeah, no. You guys are asking phenomenal questions. These are ones that come up. Had we been reviewing, we would have been reviewing for at least 6 weeks before this. And here we are, day 4 of review, and I'm just hoping. But you guys have you got some leeway for this, which is nice. You've got a lot of tools that you can use, but just be careful. Really actually do the demo. So let me get, I don't know, how about a little emotion? I'm doing okay. Obviously, if you have a question, just a little, hi, yay, I'm doing okay. I'm at least awake. Had a little bit of, I don't know, monster drink. In my case, coffee. Okay. All right. So you guys are going to be, I would say groups of 4, but that's going to be insufficient, I think, for you to get practice. So the question that I had, let me just unveil it. This is a differential equation, logistic equation. I squished it all on one page just because I didn't want you guys to have to be flipping pages and stuff. So you might want to work on this. I would certainly discuss it. If you guys want to do all the parts and then divide it up, that would be smart. But I want to give you sufficient time. I'm going to actually time it and give you 25 minutes, despite the fact that, I mean, obviously you're not going to have a couple of people working with you. Okay, so any questions before I go on? Give me a check mark. I don't have any questions. Just a check mark. If you give me an X mark, that's perfectly fine too. Just a check mark. We're ready to go. We're going to jump into groups, work on this. Justin, are you there? Just need a check mark. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to try out groups of 3. Let me think how that's going to work. If you're in a group of 2, I may move you. It'll depend. Sometimes people walk into the room late, and then I can just pop them into your group. So just bear with me. How you can approach something like this, but this will take, for me, it would have taken me more than 25 minutes, mostly because I flip out a little bit when I see all of this, and oh my gosh, what are they talking about? And I have to read it like 3 times, 4 times to understand what the situation is, and write little notes to myself. So I did stuff like, okay, 1 million computers were affected when she began. So I would say, okay, 0, 1 is the initial an initial condition. And then down here, after 4 days, it's 4 million, so 4, 4. So that's going to help me solve. I would make little notes to myself, like this is exponential, this is, who knows, it's not any form I know, it's just a fun differential equation. And then this is logistic. So that's what I do. I just make little notes and stuff, and then you're solving with what appears to be too little information, but it actually is sufficient. It's just you're getting lots of letters. So the first one, okay, so I wrote all over this one. This was actually the second one. I was just like randomly working on things. Okay, so the first one, I saw a lot of really good work on this. This is Euler's method. What was funky to me is they were doing it all sideways. But this is your initial condition, 0, 1. And remember, the format for Euler is you start out with 0, 1. Whoa. 0, 1. And you know it's going to be 2, blah. And then 4, 4. And then we're going to have to solve stuff. And then the next thing is to find dc dt. And that's going to have a k in it. And then you do, and that's m. And then you do m delta x. And then you do m delta x plus y. And that gives you your next y. And then, so as you're doing this, you start to get extra k's, because I don't know what the k value is. It's just part of my differential equation. So when you get to 2, well, here's the one that you got from before. So you apply the differential equation, you solve it, and you get this quadratic. So at 4, you've got crazy quadratic, which if you simplify and move the 4, you're going to get 2 different answers. You'll get 1/2 and -3/2. Don't give both of those. If my k is negative, so if this were a negative value, then this is going to be a decreasing equation. It's going to be a decreasing function. And you know that this is a virus that's getting, it's infecting more and more. How appropriate in this COVID age. Anyway, so yeah, you're going to get rid of this one, and then your k has to be 1/2. So it's a lot of good work on this. I don't think any part of this was easy. It's not like maybe the very last question was pretty simple, but the other stuff. Okay. The next one, differential equation 2, was this one. This was the one that didn't fit any form that I know of. I think it's just random differential equation. And you want to know what's happening after 4 days. Oh, sorry. So you want to know what's happening if 4 days is 4 million. And keep the numbers simple, 4, 4, 1, 0, 1. You don't have to write out the zeros to make it 1 million. I saw couple of different people in different rooms were doing that. Don't worry about that. Just use the 4. If you needed units at the end, you can throw in the word million. So right here, the variables are being separated. From here to here, you're putting the C's with the C's and the M's with the, the T's with the T's. Leave the constant over here. Don't try to move it. It winds up complicating things in a way that doesn't need to be complicated. So, and you remember for these sorts of differential equation problems, the very first thing you do is this. If you skip that, and oftentimes, at least on old AP, these were 5-point questions. So if you don't do this, they automatically give you a 0 and move on and read the next question. Like they don't even look at it if you haven't separated the variables. So that is, that's really, really, really important, but among other reasons. Now, when you solve it, you realize that you've got, what is that called? What is it called? Square root equals m ln, so this m is still there, natural log of blah plus d. We've got all these different things. We're looking for the variable, so you can solve it right here. Right here. You don't have to get rid of the 2. It's going to work out naturally. Your d is 2. At the very end, it's going to be 1 because you're going to be dividing, but your d is 2 so far, and now you can solve for your m. So this first one took advantage of the 0, 1. So this was for 0, 1. Plug that in. The second part was for 4, 4. So you had, thankfully, 2 different points, so you could never have gotten m. And even when you get m, oh, wait, that's a real constant, sorry. So you actually do get a value for m. Put the whole thing back together, and then you have c as a function of t. So, because this is to the 1/2 power, you square everything, you get a c value that's crazy. And I don't know what it is. It all depends on what the t is. Okay. So let me get a check mark if you see what's going on so far. Like you either understand what you did wrong, or you got it right and you're happy. Doesn't matter. Or if you're just ready to move on, because this will be posted as a video. It just takes some time for me to post it because I put it into, well, maybe I said this already, but I edit everything, so you're not waiting forever. David, you doing okay? We're just check marking. AJ, you there? Nikhil? Just want to make sure everybody's okay, that you're ready to move on. Even if you're not totally ready and you're saying, oh, I gotta look at this later, that's fine too. At least you've seen it. Okay. All right. Forging ahead. Now this one, a lot of people had an explanation, among which, so it's talking about spreading most quickly. That is a huge indicator that this cannot be exponential. Exponential equations, if your k is positive, that thing's going to go up forever. There's not going to be a quickest spread. It's just going to get faster and faster as your population grows. It's going to grow faster as the population gets bigger. So you know that. That's what this is saying. There can't be a most quick time. This one, a lot of people said, oh, I recognize that is logistic. So you can give a verbal explanation. So it's logistic, carrying capacity of 20. Did it say anything else? It didn't say anything else. But you could say something like, you could solve this to where what we had done. So this might not, this is just in a weird form, but we had talked about EC dt equals KC 1 minus PO. I guess C. I was good. That's right, P over M. So you can put it into that form and say, oh, well, I remember the M on the bottom is the carrying capacity. And whatever half of that is, so M over 2, will give you the C for the fastest rate of growth. Or fastest rate of, you really shouldn't say fastest, I guess. Well, maybe in this context it's fine. And then the concavity is going to change. This explanation talks about equation 2, which also talks about concavity. So from here, you could say, well, equation 2 can't be right, because as I continue on and I find the second derivative, there's no place where the second derivative is going to be 0. And that's required for the concavity change that we're talking about. We're talking about a logistic curve. And right here, if I'm on whatever, is where m over 2, that's where if you were to do a derivative line, you would find a 0 there, and it would be going from positive to negative, right at whatever that point is. Of course, eventually you got to find the time, but so a lot of people got the explanation right. I would go back and just look at anything else that you could do that's just straight up analytical. There are different ways to do this. Okay. Here comes the last one. This was probably, if I can make a turn, this was probably the easiest, or the most straightforward. Let me get rid of my writing because I was just goofing around. So this one's saying, I want to know the value of n this time, that computer virus spreads most quickly at 7 days. So, and at that time it's 1 million computers per day. So you just grab the differential equation that fits with that, which we already decided was logistic. And then you can substitute in, straight up into there or into the revised form that we talked about before, the values that you know. So, where did this come from? 1 million computers per day. I lost my train of thought. But 20 was the carrying capacity. That means at c equals 10, that's going to be the place at which, on the c values, the place where the computer virus is growing the most quickly, half the carrying capacity. So, and then you're going to get n equals 1 over 100 when you solve this. So you put this back on the other side. This is equal to 1. So, and that comes from up here. So 1 million computers per day, that's the rate. You're going to get 10 times 10, divide that, and you're going to get your n value. So notice how general these are and how, like, what would you do with a calculator? Like, you can pet your calculator maybe and look at it longingly, but I'm not sure it would be of much help, which is why study guide, something quick so you know what is going on with this. If you haven't invested time doing that, I would do a little bit a day, because I know you guys have other stuff going on. Okay, so maybe a smiley face, hands clapping, confused face, I want to throw up face. Anything that can give me an indicator of your general state of well-being. Okay, good. Okay. I saw emotion from everyone. All right, so last is this. So I need your free response today by 5. Please only use this email address. Some people did it at like 5:02, or okay, it wasn't that bad. I waited till like 5:15, and then it was just too late. I'm going to figure out a good thing to do. It'll be due Monday, not Tuesday, because Tuesday's your AP. And then when you are ready to roll, you can just grab this, fill out your exit ticket. It's just a survey. How are you doing? What do you need help on? Blah, blah, blah. So you can fill that guy out, and you can take off, and I'm going to stop recording.